Minister and the GRA over this VAT issue? Just some preliminary information.
Okay.
What exactly are you seeking to do with them
In
tomorrow?
fact, we have received petitions from, and I say petitions, not one, from AGI and also from the importers and exporters. Companies like Unilever have also come to see the chair of the committee to complain. And for me, it's like I told you so. You recall, and you can check from the parliamentary Hansard, I was emphatic on the fact that globally, the practice has been that any country that decides to give tax concession in the form of VAT flat rate to its citizens, it is limited to retailers. There's a reason why it is done that way, because research has proven that the input-output net for a retailer is approximately 3%. What it does mean, if I may break it down, what it does mean is that at any point in time, if a retailer goes to buy something and sells it, he takes an input VAT and takes an output VAT and account for the difference. The difference is about 3%, and those are the small companies. So clearly, any government can decide to do a 3% for retailers, but nobody extend it to wholesalers and manufacturers across the world. The reason is simple.
We've heard of wholesalers, but I've not heard of this being extended to manufacturers in the Ghana case.
I am building a point. The reason is that when you come to wholesalers, you will notice that aspect of wholesalers has higher input tax and aspect of wholesalers has lower input tax. What it simply means is that those with higher input tax, the state will be losing if they impose 3%. And those with lower input tax, it is an indirect imposition of additional tax to those people. Government, in coming to parliament, because they don't really want to lose revenue, they decided to exempt the provision of power, heat, ventilation. Those are the component of wholesalers who normally have higher input tax as wholesalers, like Electricity Company of Ghana. They are not manufacturers of power. They are only a distribution company. So they decided to exempt them, because if they are to impose 15%, 17.5% as VAT, the impact will not be the same as imposing 3%. Government will end up losing revenue. So they exempted them to protect revenue. Fair enough. But what government failed to do, which I disagreed and I questioned them, was the fact that there are also aspects of wholesalers who have lower input VAT. And so therefore, government should do more diligent work in identifying them and possibly exempt them as well, because it's amounted to imposition of additional 3% tax. That is what we are seeing. So what this simply means is that government has imposed a tax through the back door by imposing a 3% additional tax to those people. And that is why we are hearing the industry complaining. My question is that government, is he not aware of this, or is deliberate? I think it's deliberate, because I posed the question at the committee and also in parliament, and I cautioned them that that is not the way to go. Number two, since 1995, since the reintroduction of the value-added tax, you will notice that government decided to use a threshold of about $50,000 cedi equivalent as the threshold in which you will have to use to establish who will register for VAT or not. So $50,000 as of last year is approximately 200,000 Ghana cedis. So what this simply means is that if you're a small company and your threshold is 200,000 Ghana cedis, you are exempted from keeping records. Unfortunately, what this government has done is that instead of them reviewing the flat rate, reviewing the threshold to be equivalent to $200,000, they are rather using the flat rate, which is not a good practice, because you are rather exempting anybody, all of them, including wholesalers, from keeping records, which is a major compliance tool for tax accounting, and that is what GRA will ask for. Simply put, this imposition of 3% has made the tax system cascading. It means tax on tax, VAT on VAT. People call it double tax, but the right word is cascading. Because the tax system, the cascading effect is what the value-added tax seeks to erode, very much eliminate. Today, cascading is coming back because of the imposition of the flat rate 3%. And finally, let me also put on record that the law that Parliament passed and the President assented to never made provision for what we call importers to be paid 3%. So if they are adding importers, somebody is charging VAT through the back door. I want to urge the minister responsible for finance and his deputies, please respect the law. Please do what is right. Don't impose a VAT through a tax through the back door. Please remember that in the Income Tax Act, we still have the presumptive tax also alive. The presumptive tax is simple put, is what we impose 6%. And that 6% presumptive tax is for the purposes of identifying those individuals and companies who have registered for VAT, who are actually below the VAT threshold of 200 million. Government charge them 6% to cater for 3% VAT and 3% income tax. Today, you are imposing 3% flat rate. So what this simply means is that on top of the 6% presumptive tax, the small company is actually getting additional 3% tax on top of that, so they are paying 9%. That is why we are saying it's an imposition of a tax through the back door and not necessarily an exemption of taxation.
So what should happen now? Beyond the complaint and you indicating that the Finance Ministry is implementing something that Parliament did not pass, someone should be facing sanctions for this.
What we are saying is, obviously, we are going to meet with AGI, we are going to meet with the likes of Unilever, the likes of the importers, those who have actually petitioned us. We will sit with them. In fact, we will listen to them. We will, apart from that, invite the Minister for Finance and lay before him what the industry is saying. And we will actually look at the memorandum of the bill, the intent of the bill and what they are doing and what the actually the law is saying. And I can assure you, we will insist that the right thing is being done. We will not agree that taxation should be passed through the back door. No, the intent should be clear. And clearly, the memorandum of the bill was that they are actually exempting the taxpayer from paying taxes, exempting them from keeping records to make it simplified. They went further to say that in terms of revenue, it is negligible because it's not adding to an increase in taxes or a reduction in taxes. But from what we are hearing, the impact is different. So this very much departs from the object of the bill. And that is why we have concerns. So we'll ask them to come back and then correct what they have to do.
The various stakeholders who are asking for, who have petitioned the committee